everyone. Welcome to the Jason Wright Show's Authentic Health Friday. All right, so this week I sat down with Gus and discussed one of his new supplement protocols that he designed specifically for his daughters who he just sent off to college. And the reason why Dr. Gus wanted to create this protocol specifically for his daughters is because, look, the bottom line is when kids go off to school, their sleep patterns get disrupted. As we've discussed time and time again on the podcast, we just live kind of in an environment that from a toxic standpoint works against us. And so what Dr. Gus wanted to do was create a protocol that would help his daughters stay on the right circadian rhythm and just help defend them against the toxicants and some of the disruptive life patterns that happen whenever we go off to school. And so we're going to discuss that in depth. Now, one of the things you're going to continue to hear about in these episodes leading up to probably about 2 months from now is how we are actually developing products that are going to be customized by Dr. Gus. He is actually creating custom formulas so that a lot of these individual supplements that we talk about and that we recommend for overall health or that he doesn't recommend, he's not establishing a patient-doctor relationship, but that we discuss that he uses is that he recommends to his patients. He is actually going to be creating formulas that will remove some of the bottle caps that you have to keep in your pantry that you will be able to get from Authentic Health. So, but I don't want you to think this is just a big commercial for our upcoming supplement company. That's not it. More importantly, what we want you to do is just get a knowledge of the things that we're working against when it comes to toxicants and the things that are out there in our food and the air and the water, and then how you can use supplementation as well as a healthy lifestyle and eating good whole foods to defend against that and keep yourself as healthy as possible. So if you have kids going off to college, I highly recommend that you listen to this. I'm going to put all of the supplements and the protocol and everything in the show notes. And I mentioned this in the podcast, but just to say right now, if you want to skip ahead right now to it, you can actually go to the episode website, which like if you're listening to this on iTunes, then or Spotify, you just click a link that says episode website. It'll take you there and you can download every single supplement that Dr. Gus is talking about. You can go put it together piecemeal. You can call Authentic Health Asheville. We don't care how you get it. Just go get those things and put it together and send your kids off with a healthy start to their college days. Or if they're already there, ship it to them and say, hey, listen to this episode and start taking these supplements. And what else do I want to tell you before we got started? I guess that's basically it. And also, oh yeah, I know what I was going to say. If you're watching this on the YouTube channel, then I'm going to have a link to this document that has all of the supplements that we talk about. There's actually 2 tiers. There's one that Dr. Gus put together. It's like just the baseline protocol. If you want to do this, then there it is. There's the baseline. That's where to start. That's kind of like the minimal effective dose. But then he also includes in there a little extra. And we talk about that. Like, okay, if you're going to be going off to school and you're going to be an athlete or something like that, where you might need a little extra push. He talks about his son who's trying to go to college and play basketball. So he's having to do a little extra. If that's you, that's okay. Then you've got the baseline and then you've got the extras that you can tag on to kind of get that extra oomph that you might need to match your lifestyle and your goals. So with that, thanks so much for listening. Please, if you're listening to this on YouTube, I would really appreciate if you would subscribe to the channel and leave some comments, leave some questions for Dr. Gus. If you are listening to this on Apple or Spotify, please consider leaving a rating. If you have friends that have kids that are going off to college, please, by all means, share this episode with them. I think they'd find it very beneficial. And that's all I got. I hope you enjoy this episode of Dr. Gus and I talking about what I'm calling for right now, the collegiate protocol. Thanks for listening. Dr. Gus, welcome back to another exciting, action-packed episode of Authentic Health Fridays, where we are going to completely dissect a cadaver right here on the YouTubes in front of everybody, and you're going to take us through piece by piece what we're looking at. No, I'm just kidding. That's probably something that would get us a lot more views. I don't know about the downloads. I don't know how well that would do on the podcast if we were dissecting cadavers, but one of the things I think I told you this, whenever I went out to that Dave Ramsey event last year, the biggest YouTube channel, which had, I'm pretty sure, over 1 million subscribers, was these 2 guys that were so cool. Some of my favorite people that I got to hang out with that week. that's exactly what their channel is they dissect cadavers and
Um,
people, I mean, that's what people like to see. And another one is like people love to watch the videos of pimples getting popped or
oh, and
oh, it's
now
that's
that I mean, I could have recorded some draining of abscesses and popping of pimples and all kinds of little things like that that I've done in my clinic over the last 20 years.
well, maybe if things get bad enough, if Authentic Health Friday just tanks to the point where we really need to chase some eyeballs, like if there were like a sweeps week for the interwebs, then we'll keep that in the break in case of an emergency cabinet, the pimple popping episode.
There we
How
go.
about how about that
Maybe,
one?
maybe when you come to the clinic, we can explore, see if we can find a hemorrhoid delancet or something like that.
God,
We'll,
that sounds that sounds awful. Do people do
Mhm.
that?
Yeah, it's actually it's quite, relieving to the individual, not just like a regular hemorrhoid that's just irritated, but some hemorrhoids will become what is called thrombosed. They get a
Yeah.
big clot in them. They become exquisitely painful. We're not talking about an irritation, we're talking about bad pain, and, people will describe it, they come in, I know this is gross, but I have to look at that area, and you just see this dark purple color, like,
Oh.
clotted off hemorrhoid. And it's not as hard as you would think, even though it's a blood vessel, it's a low pressure system. You inject numbing medicine into the surface of the hemorrhoid. That's the only part that they feel. And then you actually slice that thing open with a scalpel and you go in there and basically get all that clot out of there. And then you just put some packing and, call it a day. But they get so much relief from that. It's crazy.
So,
There you
I
go.
got one of the worst ski trips I ever had was it was a long time ago. It was over 20 years ago. And for some reason, I'm not a good skier, so I'm real tense the whole time I'm skiing. You know, you just kind of squatted down whenever to ski or whatever. And
Mhm.
so
Yep.
I had the worst hemorrhoids I've ever had in my life. It was painful. It was the most excruciating, awful, annoying pain. And so that might have been one of those, if we had been friends, then we would have taken our friendship to a new level because I might have come to
Yeah.
see you. It was so bad. But so
Yeah.
for those of you who are actually still listening to us after this kickoff, that I will take full credit for. Today, we're talking about something, Doc, that I think is an excellent, excellent topic. You and I have both. You just sent your girls off to school. You got your boy coming up. In the not so distant future. Rylan and Abby, they've gone off to college. And one of the things that kids, it's really been tough for me. The more steeped I get in health, wellness, and all this stuff that you and I talk about all the time, I really worry about my girls, that you it's look, because look, I know in college, I did it. We stayed up all hours of the night, go crush some Taco Bell at 3 AM. I mean, your circadian rhythm is jacked. All the food you're eating is toxic. You're boozing. You just pay no attention because your stomach is just like this iron thing. It can just take it. Your body can take so much,
Mhm.
and it's just I don't know. We abuse our bodies, and you, before, your girls, Evie and, Josephine, before they took off for school, you created a customized protocol for them based on their age, knowing the toxic environment, and by that, I mean the water, the food, the things that they were gonna be taking in. You wanted to send them off with at least some sort of armament to help them against that environment, and so that knowing that they're probably gonna jack up their circadian rhythm, knowing they're gonna compromise their immune system, and so you sent them off and, you came up with a protocol that you have now kind of, I guess we're gonna patent this thing as a, off to college protocol, which I gotta imagine every parent would love to be able to know that they're sending their kids off with putting them in their best foot forward as they go out into the environment to know they're gonna be healthy, especially now we live in the era of although it's post-COVID, still, we're probably gonna have another pandemic of some kind, another strain's gonna come up, and the flu is always gonna be there. So to give your kids the best advantage possible when they go off to school to be healthy and to stay healthy, I think it's really cool. And so that's what we're going to talk about today is this protocol that you've come up with from a supplementation standpoint to help them with that. So I think it's going to be kind of cool. So just talk about a little bit as a dad who happens to be a physician. when did you decide to do this, and how did you start putting these pieces together to say, "Okay, this is what I'm sending my girls off to school with"?
Yeah, it's, I'll try not to go too far back into the history of the whole thing because I've been hounding my kids with various efforts at nutritional support since they were small. When I began in my clinical practice to discover this strong link between food quality and diseases and growth and development, I'm like, I have got to find a way. And we were pretty good already. I mean, we tended to purchase at least organic, I mean, we still did the thing that most parents did with their little kids. We'd have those little organic chicken fingers and green peas and stuff like that. Like if I knowing what I know now, the food environment would have been really different in our home, but at least we did an okay job with when our kids were developing. But I knew that they needed more nutrient density in their food. And so I would have these plant-based powders that I'd sprinkle into their eggs, and then they'd be like, "What's in my eggs?" And everybody in the house didn't like me. Like, at that point, Kelly, who fully buys into this now, really wasn't buying into it. She wasn't convinced, and she was like, "Why are you constantly hounding everybody?" I was like, "We've got to find a way to get these nutrients into our kids." So I've been on this quest for a long time. But, my kids have to get to a place where they want it for themselves, as we know. Sometimes as parents, we have to do things for our kids, despite their objections, because we know what's best for them. We are their executive function up to a certain stage of life. And, so, there were things that I tried to make sure we could do. I mean, and some of this we could address through a gummy or, something that I could mix into a drink and then I could make it more palatable for them or what have you. But there was a point to where they got old enough where they could swallow capsules or tablets. It gets a lot easier when you can do that and more convenient. But they would still object. And what happened really was their later years of high school for my daughters and my son, as he entered into high school, all of them became more interested because of either challenges they were experiencing with their own health or goals and ambitions. My son wants to play college basketball. He wanted to maximize his growth and strength potential. He did not want to miss any nutrients that are essential for bone elongation and growth, connective tissue, muscle, because that's going to limit you if you don't your body's missing that information through your growth period. When you release those hormones and your growth plates are still open, you'll limit how much you grow, how big and strong you get, because your body will be like, hey, the environment doesn't have everything that we need. So we have to limit this. But if you make sure that that's all available, then you can at least maximize your opportunity. So for some people, it's just they're just trying to find ways to make sure that they don't sabotage their own potentials. But for a lot of them, it's that our young population is now dealing with so many health afflictions that didn't used to be part of it. Like when my kids were little, we would take them for their well child checks. And somewhere around maybe age 5, we realized it's been like 3 years since we went for a well child check. Like, because they were healthy and I'm a doctor. And, if they needed a few stitches, I could put them in. And so we were like, that was the history. Like, once you kind of got to you develop normally, you're healthy, unless you were injured or sick, you really didn't need to like go to the doctor very often. But now kids are filling up clinics with headaches, migraines, problems with breathing, anxiety, sleep issues, depression issues, mood stability issues, developmental delays, motor delay. Like the list is long. Gut issues. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? That our kids have this many health challenges, acne, eczema, all kinds of issues. And so much of this is tied into how to our body's ability just to manage health, which is not only based on nutrients, but has a big chunk of what of the influence on us is do we have the nutrients needed to operate properly? And then what other kinds of things are getting into our body from our environments that are creating inflammation and challenges? And so I know that these things can be resolved. Like we don't have to just manage them with medications and specialists and testing. We just need to figure out what's going on and fix the system. And so my both of my daughters, they're very healthy, but both of them had developed at periods of times where they had either reflux or just nausea. They had, both of them developed various issues with acne. Both of them had headaches and occasional migraines, and there was a point to where one of them before the other became interested and I was like, Dad, can you help me? I'm ready to do this. And I'm like, yeah. So let's start trying these strategies. And then the other one has come along as well. And by the time they were heading to college, They had gotten so consistent with using the base, like, supplement support routine that we're gonna discuss today, that just fortifies the nutrients that are most commonly insufficient and deficient in our from our modern food supply, that they're like, they don't have headaches or migraines, or if they do, it's rare. They don't have reflux, IBS, or abdominal problems. Neither of them has any significant acne issues any longer, just an occasional zit, which next time it happens, we'll pop it and record it and show it on the podcast, right? Because that's such exciting stuff. But, and so they got to a point where they're like, "Yeah, you just give it to me and I'll do it. I don't mind taking the 1 minute to swallow some capsules, if it's gonna result in me not having the same frequency of migraines, or maybe not have migraines at all, that I can eat without pain, nausea, bloating, gas, reflux, that I can sleep well at night, that my brain works properly so I can perform well academically, that I don't need medicines for mood, anxiety, and everything else, da da da. And that my skin isn't always broken out, like where I don't feel great about how I appear. If this is what it takes to keep me in that shape, no problem. I will do it." And so I set them up with what I thought would be a good protocol for them. Now, I also did their micronutrient reports, and I knew kind of where their specific needs lay, but I also knew what everybody needs based on hundreds of micronutrient reports I've done across, all ages. And I sent them off to college with their bundles. And I said, "Your friends are probably going to make fun of you because you're going to show up and they're going to be like, maybe they take a vitamin, if that, and you're over here taking, this, and this. They're going to be like, 'What's wrong with you?'" And I'm like, just be prepared for that. And that's not what happened. Instead, after a period of time, and their friends got to know my daughters, my daughter's like, "Oh, I used to have migraines, but I rarely have them anymore." "Oh, I used to have that." "Well, what happened?" "Well, my dad, he's a doctor and he kind of helped figure this stuff out." And then their friends are now contacting saying, "Hey, how do we get on this, whatever you got your daughters doing?" Right. So that's
Well,
a
can I just
long there.
I just want to tell you real quick, I'm not surprised that that happened, because Rylan, when I started talking to her about supplementation and some of the things that you and I had talked about, she told me, first of all, she was very receptive as well, as were all of her friends, because there is a huge TikTok marketing, I guess, lane out there that these kids are watching. And that's what Rylan said. She said, no, I talked to her about this protocol that you were coming up with. I said, "Do you think that would be, something your friends would be interested in?" She said, "Absolutely." She said, "Because most everything that my friends and I take," which, by the way, these kids are really into. I got another story about skincare in a minute. It's kinda
Mhm.
crazy. But she said, "Most of our friends, we get all of our information from TikTok," no surprise there, and she said, and so all these, and God only knows what kinda crap that they're having marketed to them, the quality of it, and it's like it's probably like everything else, and by the way, folks, is one of the things that Doctor Gus and I, this is one of the reasons why we're constantly, well, he is a physician as a professional. One of the things I've learned, because I used to be the person that I would listen to a podcast or read a blog or a study about NAC. And guess what? There we go. I go out and I'd at NAC for a while, not getting the support for the NAC, not creating the blockchain that the NAC falls into to have the full and complete leverage of what the NAC would do for me. A lot of people do that. There is no silver bullet. There's no magic like Dr. Gus. And now I've moved, by the way, Dr. Gus, I've moved my desert island supplement from creatine to amino acids. I
Mhm.
give you that. That was your desert island, supplement, and but that's if we're on a desert, and if we're on a desert island, but we're not on a desert island. Instead, we've got all of these tools at our disposal, and Ryland said, my friends, we want to understand how to be healthy." So there's a huge push for these kids to take these things. They're just taking a lot of crap, and they're taking the wrong things. So that's one of the things that excited me whenever you told me about this bundle that you kinda created, and I knew that was your take on it. It was like, maybe Evie and Josephine will take it because 'cause I'm dad, but man, there are kids, so parents, I'm telling you, your kids, you may not know it, but that grocery budget that you're putting in their account that they're using for their debit card, they're probably spending it on supplements right now, and what you're about to hear that Dr. Gus has put together, uh, you could actually steer your kids away from TikTok, away from people that are interested in one thing only, which is to get money out of you. They don't care whether they're giving you're selling your kid one supplement in isolation that basically has no impact whatsoever. They're just wanting to make money. It's probably the cheapest crap possible, marketed by some other kid in their basement that they're buying off of, who knows what, who knows where. And so that your kids will be receptive to this. I believe it, most of them are. So anyway, I just want to say that, Gus, because I think this is something that could be a huge market for us to educate these young people. And how cool would it be if these folks that their dad is not a doctor, they already start the habit of detoxification and protection at such an early age so that they go into adulthood just as kind of this is a natural part of who they are and what they're doing. So anyway, I just want to put that in there that you're really onto
Great.
something.
What you're picking up on is the same vibe I'm picking up on. These young adults, college age kids, even some in the later stage of high school are beginning to draw this link. Like they're beginning to say, wait a second, why would it be normal for me to feel this bad? Right. Why do I always have these problems? They're beginning to link it. And it's becoming, the food has become the mass produced food, the poor quality food has become so bad, so laden with artificial fillers and chemicals and so non-nutritious that it's just making people hurt when they eat it, period, right? And they're just like, "Okay, that's not too hard to put together, that this has created problems for me." And so they're waking up to this, and then how do we make it easy? How do you because what most people and we're gonna educate everyone on this podcast is the diverse types of nutrients that you have to get that are critical, and some you need a lot more of than others. And and oftentimes, I mean, I review these products all the time that people will send me, "What do you think about this one?" And there's a lot of great ones, but most of what I see, one, the quality of the ingredients is not great. The form of the nutrient is not the best one for most human systems. And then the ratios of like how they've stacked nutrients are not good. You're not going to end up really getting an optimal nutrient availability through most of these formulations, which is why we're going to make our own programmed according to what I have observed in my clinic over hundreds of cases that 90+% of people would need this support. And we're just going to go ahead and provide it in a pure form.
And that's one of the things I want to go ahead and say, folks. There, we've talked about this. Authentic Health will be offering everything you're going to hear today. There will be a point in which you can very easily. You can already reach out to, and I'll be sure and put this in the show notes. You can reach out to Authentic Health in Asheville and get hooked up with Courtney and Dr. Gus's team to put together these bundles. But Dr. Gus is actually developing these formulations where you can start to remove some of these bottle caps and really simplify it so that you can arm your kids with a very streamlined supplement protocol. That's our goal. When Gus and I first talked about starting this company that we'll be launching, and what we think, Gus, the formulations will probably be available, what, 2 months? How
Yep.
long? Yeah,
Within
about
2
2
months.
months. Yeah, so one of the things I told him as the layperson in the partnership is, "We gotta make this as easy as possible. We just gotta remove as much resistance as possible," and that's one of the things that Gus is very big on, is making medicine, health, and wellness, from the patient standpoint, as user-friendly as possible. So, just know, folks, everything that we're talking about, you can take everything Dr. Gus, and I've got a document I'll probably I will for sure include in the show notes. And so, and by the way, just to let you know, folks, I can't put all the show notes in like the Apple description or Spotify. So, but if you look at the bottom of the show notes, it'll say view episode website. Every single episode of the Jason Wright Show and Authentic Health Fridays, if you just click that, it'll take you over to the website and you'll have all of the information there. I post the YouTube videos that we're talking about. So you've got that. I've got any documentation that Dr. Gus talks about and mentions. It will be there for your use. So be sure to check that out. Everything we talk about today, you will be able to duplicate this protocol and not basically you'll have to exercise very minimal brain cells when we get this ready to go for you. It'll just be there and you can send your kids off to school with the armament that they need. That's the second time I've said armament. That's weird. I never used that word, but that one's kind of stuck today. So we're going to arm up with our supplements.
Yeah, and, as Jason already mentioned, like, the concept we're about to walk you through this, teach you what are these different classes of nutrients and why. But the idea is that we can put them together in the right ratios and amounts, and you in a formulation where you're not. Because right, I do have a document I created about this because I realized the interest was there, and so rather than me explaining it over and over again to the parents and my daughter's friends, I'm like, here's a document you can share with them, and if they're interested, this is the protocol. Right, here's the basic protocol that I have you guys on, and here's the more expanded version for people who want to go a little bit deeper. Here's the list of the resources, the dosing, and everything. But what we're going to come out with in 2 months is something where that basic protocol is two, like it's 2 lines, not 5 lines, right? And so it's going to get a lot easier. But if there are people who are right now like, I need this now, then the document is a nice, if I do say so myself, it's a nice write-up of the reasoning and the understanding, and it makes sense why. And then with a clear list, this is the protocol I use. And not only my daughters, but most of my patients, most of the people I come across. And if you would like access to it, my office, which is on the document, we can make it easy for you. We'll bundle it all together and ship it to you and make it really easy. Ultimately, the goal is to have in 2 months, if you're interested, through Authentic Health, the company, and use our simplified formulations.
There you go. All right. So where do we start on this formulation, Gus?
Yeah, so let me go ahead and start with we'll revisit one of my daughter's micronutrient reports. Is that okay? And
Yeah.
just kind of remind the listeners or viewers about this. We did a whole episode where we went through this much slower than I'm about to do. But this is one of my daughters, and this is their micronutrient report. Now, this is after I've already had her on a support protocol for a period of time, but I had to augment it based on these findings. So if you'll recall, this is a blood test that looks at the extracellular, I mean, what's outside your cells, availability of these nutrients, and then what's inside the cell. And then we can look at patterns. Are the nutrients actually getting transported into the cell? Are there classes of nutrient, fat soluble, water soluble, minerals that tend to cluster together that are either insufficient or outright deficient that we know we need to really push in that area? And so I'm going to be very quick about this, but what we look at this goes alphabetically, which I prefer to be clustered, are some of and the most common things I see are deficiencies or insufficiencies in essential fatty acids, phospholipids, and fat soluble nutrients like vitamin A, vitamin E, and vitamin D. And that's why the fats version of our Authentic Health foundational support supplement will be so important because it's going to cover those bases. But you can see here that my daughter is doing very well with vitamin A. Her B vitamins all look pretty good. I've got her on a B complex. This is an area where I'll notoriously see not great results unless the person's already addressing it, that B vitamins are compromised. And I'm not just talking about B12 or maybe folate. I'm talking about B6, B3 riboflavin, thiamine, and it's critically important for overall health. Those B vitamins play a role in so many different cellular, functions and biochemical processes. And we just burn through them. And now we have data showing that adults that take B complex have lower rates of dementia than those who do. I mean, it's just so much support for this. And then we have important antioxidants like vitamin C, which I was not supplementing with her own vitamin C at the time. I was just letting her get it through her food. But after this, I decided to add just a little bit of vitamin C, not every single day, but part of the time to a regimen. But you can see her D3 levels look good. Base D is good enough. Vitamin E is good. K1 is good. Her vitamin K2 could be a little more supported. I had her on just a form of vitamin D support that isn't the whole D3 K2. So we added there. Folate is good. And then we get into some minerals, calcium, manganese, zinc, and zinc and copper balance. All of hers look good. Chromium, which was an interesting deficiency. So I had to actually fill in that gap. Iron looked good. Magnesium levels, I had her on a good bit of magnesium at the time. Intracellular, she was fine. She just had a little bit of a high level in her blood. Magnesium is commonly deficient. Deficiencies can lead to headaches, muscle cramps, balking during exercise, enhanced anxiety, sleep issues. So I'm a big fan of using extra magnesium. One of the most common nutrient deficiencies or insufficiencies I see is choline. Critical, critical, critical. Egg yolks and liver are our best sources. There are ways to supplement it. We'll have high doses of choline in our formulation because this is so critical, and I commonly see it so low. Inositol is an amino acid metabolite, and she was deficient extracellularly, a little bit low. So I added a phospholipid complex that it contains inositol. Carnitine looked good, potassium looked fine, and then we get into amino acids, asparagine, glutamine, serine, another amino acid metabolite that is derived from glycine was low, but it was actually okay out here, so I'm letting the body kinda fix that, but we would add possibly some glycine supplementation, but also the phospholipids I put her on have phosphatidylserine, which is wonderful for calming anxiety responses, balancing out the autonomic nervous system. So our formulation will have a healthy dose of phosphatidylserine. And then we see other amino acids. Citrulline is derived from arginine, and so I'm not too concerned about that. These are her essentials. They look good at baseline because this is fasting. CoQ10, a fat soluble compound, looks good. Cysteine, I added a little cysteine support for her. Glutathione levels are okay. Selenium is okay. Essential fatty acids, EPA was low. She had not been taking the omega-3 support that I'd had her on at this time, so she resumed it. DHA was a little bit better, which is more of my focus in these young people is that do they have the DHA they need because of how critical it is. Total omega-3 wasn't bad, but could be better, so we addressed that. So, and then we look at some other fatty acids that are also really important and essential. The point is not to go through an entire, a, you know, micronutrient report in detail. We already did that once before. We'll probably do it again. The point was just to show you what is it we're looking at, when we're looking at nutrient status for an individual, and then to tell you that, across these classes, what I commonly see at intake for people who might not be on support, who are not aware of this, and this includes uh, lots of adults, and then a lot of them will have their children just tested. I don't become their doctor, but we just go ahead and test their children because, like, I need to see what my children need. What we're going to typically see is insufficient, meaning bare minimum just to maintain life, or outright deficiencies across B vitamins, magnesium, phospholipids, including choline, inositol, serine, essential fatty acids such as EPA, DHA, omega-3 fatty acids, but often it's not on this test, but if I look at it through a different test, oleic acid and omega-9 found in avocados and olive oils and things high in the Mediterranean diet. So often it's a critical dietary fatty acid. And then fat soluble nutrients, D3, vitamin A, tocotrienols, vitamin E, right? So this is so critical. The These fats, not they do a lot of things, but one of the most important things is that they maintain the health and signaling function of your cell membranes, right? The membranes, the lipid fatty layer around your cells that creates a distinct little living cell and separates it from the environment and protects it. Those membranes are so critical. The health of the membrane is going to dictate the health of the cell. If the membrane's not healthy, the cell will not be healthy, no matter how good everything else is working. And it's not just the membrane of the cell, it's the membrane of all the mitochondria inside the cell and the multiple mitochondrial membranes that are part of mitochondrial function, how you generate energy. The membranes of the endoplasmic reticulum and all the other organelles, right? The body is full of these membranes and they're critically important. And then not to mention the critical importance of the membranes in the neuronal and glial cells of the brain. So the essential fatty acids, the phospholipids, and some of those fat soluble nutrients are a critical building block of these membranes. And if we're deficient in those or insufficient, the membranes end up with inappropriate fatty acid balances that creates real problems, real health issues, and increases your risk of future degenerative diseases of the brain or central nervous system. So this really kind of exploded in my understanding just over the last several years. And what an important piece it is. And why do people feel so much better when we address sufficiency of this full spectrum of fat soluble nutrients, including vitamins as well as fatty acids? And so, for a developing child, I mean, the truth is this is a discussion for moms with little children, right? Because they're probably deficient. And yeah, we'll be working on like a powdered-based formula that tastes decent enough that maybe can be mixed in for those children as well. That is on our docket of priorities because we really think this is gonna make a huge difference in the development and performance, that these kids experience. But so anyway, so we'll walk through maybe the little protocol in a moment and how it addresses each of these factors. But the others are also critically important. The amino acids, the essential amino acids are the building block of all the proteins and enzymes of the body. And most individuals are protein insufficient. They're not getting enough protein because they're choosing to eat, pizza that maybe has some pepperoni on it. They're choosing to eat cereals, breakfast cereals, or Pop Tarts or whatever. They're not choosing the foods, especially I'm biased towards animal proteins, pasture raised, but ruminant animal, really comprehensively eating the animal, but at least the muscle meat, along with perhaps healthier versions of seafood if you can get them non-toxic. And then your eggs, especially if you're not allergic to eggs and pasture raised, all that kind of stuff. But and then, to some extent, poultry and pork, but be careful because of some of the toxicity issues. It's so critical that they get this protein. And so if we can introduce more amino acids through formulations where they can get more of that support, it makes a huge difference. And what I've observed is that it's not the only thing you need to do because typically their systems have been so negatively impacted by food quality issues and nutritional insufficiencies that there are other types of support that are needed, but fixing the nutrient factor alone results in an exponential improvement in their sense of well-being. So many of areas of struggle go away by just addressing this.
One of the things that you mentioned there, going back to the amino acids, and one of the reasons why I think it would be my desert island supplement of choice at this point is I know that Rylan would talk about, in particular, a lot of her friends, kids, they're young. We were there once, and girls tend to want to be a certain size, and they generally don't, go about it in the healthiest of ways. In fact, whenever semaglutide and Ozempic started popping up, and as opposed to like you and I talked about way back, where for someone who has struggled with weight and all that, how these can be so, these peptides can be so helpful to kind of get them on the right track. You had a lot of these young girls that started taking this, and they don't care, they don't stop to think about the nutritional deficiencies. All they think about is, I just want to lose weight. If it makes me lose weight, I don't care. It's kind of like,
Mm.
as long as I can get a tan, I don't care what the UV
Yeah.
warnings are. I'll worry about that whenever I'm older. Uh, it's the I think Justin Bieber, the philosopher Justin Bieber, um, he has a line in one of his latest songs that says, "Young blood thinks there's always tomorrow." I think it's something like
Mhm.
that, and so I think that it's important that the things we're talking about, if these young people and guys are just as bad about, body composition issues, although I guess these college guys are a little luckier than us, Gus, because the dad bod has become in vogue for them. I don't ever want a dad bod, but I'm
Yeah.
told these days that the dad bod is something that girls find attractive. But,
Mhm.
having those essential amino acids to compensate for the lack of nutrients, if these girls start or guys start doing something like just reducing their calories by a ridiculous amount, thinking that they're just gonna operate on Vyvanse or some other, ADHD drug and alcohol and coffee and just all these terrible things to suppress their appetite. Um, these things that we're talking about, not that you should ever do any of that, but it just gives even more reason these kids are gonna do things, and parents, I hate to warn you, I don't care what little angels you had at home, when they get off to college, they're gonna be influenced, they're gonna make bad choices, so if you can send them, again, with these things that will help compensate for some of the, hopefully, your child will not make those bad decisions, yeah, but there's a chance they will. At least hedge for good health by sending them off with some of these things that we're talking about today to compensate for, again, some of that youthful decision making that, we've all suffered a little bit from.
Yeah, I think this report I showed for my daughter is far better than average of what I see, but it's still got missing pieces. And actually, I'm going to share the screen one more time if that's okay, Jason, because
Yeah, let's do it.
I do think this will be interesting to the audience. I didn't go into it, and it's not specific to the nutrients, but at this point, This was more than a year ago that I did this one. You know, she had, I went ahead and added on a test that I could sneak in on her called a wheat zoomer through Vibrant, which is a more comprehensive blood assessment for immune reactions to all of the different proteins that can be associated with gluten. You know, that's a can of worms most people want to open up because, oh my gosh, going gluten free can seem to be so challenging. It's actually not as hard as people think because of the way the marketplace has responded. And it's important to note that when you think about gluten and gluten sensitivity, because it's a buzzword, people hear so much about it these days. There's a narrow spectrum of autoimmune conditions under the name celiac disease. It's
Mhm.
a very specific autoimmune disease of the gut. Gluten will make you very sick. There are genetic proclivities to have this, and if you do, then you're going to be off gluten the rest of your life. And for everyone else, that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is your body has developed a sensitivity to some of the various proteins that are found within gluten. But I think we've discussed this before, and I'm just going to, repeat it because it's so important for people to hear. This problem is not happening as much from the gluten, although our food, what we've done with our wheat products is we've got, I think, 4 to 5-fold the amount of gluten that ancestral wheat had, which does create like advantages for cultivation, harvesting, but also texture, but has also created real challenges for our digestive system. But it mostly has to do with the glyphosate, the Roundup that is covering our wheat, all of our non-organic wheat, which directly damages the tight junctions of the gut, thereby causing something called gut hyperpermeability, where little components of food and pieces of bacteria, not the whole bacterium, can sneak through that gut barrier and begin to engage with your immune system and create real problems for you. Right. And so most of these individuals, it's probably that glyphosate that was packaged on the pizza crust and the Subway roll and the cereal and the bread that created the problem, but nonetheless, they're now reacting against gluten. So this is what this test looks like. And, things like zonulin, which would be high if you have an active, like serious leaky gut issue or gut hyperpermeability. These were normal for her. So these things looked pretty good actually. But then as we get into the actual proteins associated with gluten and start looking, what we see here is that she has some high level of a gliadin reaction. And it's not terrible, but she really reactive against wheat
Mm.
specific. Yeah, really lit up for wheat. So non gluten wheat. So, I'm telling her, hey, look, you've got probably some degree of gluten. You're sensitized to gluten, and you clearly are having a problem with wheat anyway. And after appropriate grieving, she went ahead and went gluten free, and we helped her find the healthy gluten free products and substitutes that she could enjoy. And within a very short period of time, the acne that was flaring back up was gone, face clear, and any episodes of abdominal discomfort she had had gone. And now she was like, "I don't care." I mean, I've learned how to eat all kinds of other foods I enjoy and avoid gluten, and if I occasionally stumble into it because there's no option, my gut's healed now, so I'm not gonna blow up because I have a little bit of gluten or something like that. So it's not like you have to be 100% like you do with celiac disease, and everything is so much better, but part of what's going on with the nutrient issues is when you've got gluten reactivity going on, then you've got gut damage, and that's going to affect your ability to absorb and manage nutrient loads properly. And so it's really all of this coming together where the food doesn't have those nutrients. We've said that many times, but it's also containing these emulsifiers, additives, chemicals, pesticides, herbicides that are actively destroying the gut and causing us to have a more challenging nutrient issue. And so it's this cleanup on I'm not going to eat poison anymore. I'm going to be selective and the challenges in the college environment, it's really hard to do that.
Mhm.
Really, really hard. So I'm like, well, then we've got to get this cleaned up and we have to have you fully nutrient fortified so your body can defend itself from some of the exposures that are going to happen. And then the combination of something called fulvic and humic acid that are on this protocol and will be in our product will help bind up and detox some of the glyphosate and other things that are coming in with the food. So now we've got agents, natural agents that are part of our soil ecosystem that are included that aid nutrient delivery from gut to body, but also into the cells and simultaneously help bind up and clear some of those toxicants that are going to be in the foods that they're eating off at college or as young adults with new jobs in the city. So it's really a lovely thing, right? That we can solve a lot of challenges with just a fairly simple formula.
Let me ask you this. How much of, and I want to get controversial here because I want to really piss some people off. How much of the ADHD problem that is so much more prolific now and is a result of some of this toxicity in food and the things that just the general environment that these kids are coming up in? Do you have any sense of that, Doc?
I cannot give you an exact percent. And of course, because then there's also the argument about technology and all
Yeah.
of these other impacting the environment. But I can tell you this, there's a major contribution, major, meaning your kid may have focus issues primarily because they have a disrupted gut from toxicants and they're nutrient compromised and they don't have the essential fatty acids and essential amino acids needed just to process normally to maintain focus. Your kid may have old school, what we would call ADD or ADHD, but their symptoms are worse and requiring more medication and more help because of these same issues. It is a major contributor to focus, attention, cognition, mood, managing anxiety and worry, OCD, ability to sleep deeply, major, major contribution to all those things.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. So for the again, folks, something to kind of hedge against. Because here's another thing: for those of you who don't have kids in college yet, but you plan to send them off one day, then let me tell you something. They're not going to have a prescription to get a hold of some Ritalin or, again, like I said, Vyvanse or some other medicine that is meant for ADHD. And so, again, hopefully, if your child goes off with the proper tools and has that focus, they never even consider needing that whatever that pharmaceutical supplement as opposed to just good food and increasing their nutrients to a point where it's never even a consideration. Because they will be faced with it. It's rampant, and now you get this even greater fear, Doc, of like whenever these kids take, they take all these prescription drugs like Xanax and Vyvanse and all these different things, Valium, and then you got because coming over cheap and it's laced with fentanyl. I mean, we know a kid here in Tyler that took a Xanax that it was not prescribed to him. He was not someone that had any history of drug abuse or anything. It was probably just a well-meaning friend that said, "Here, I've got some Xanax. You're stressed out. You need to chill." Whatever the case may be, I don't think there was any nefarious activity going on other than we all know you should never take a prescription drug that was not written for you by a licensed physician. But
Mm.
nevertheless, it was laced with fentanyl, it was a Xanax. And so just
Did they
parents,
did they die?
yeah, kid died.
Oh
Yep,
gosh.
kid died. Yep.
That's so terrible.
So, again, I'm not trying to scare parents into helping their kids supplement, but it's a war zone out there, and these kids these days going back to what I was gonna mention earlier about skincare. So, Jimlyn and I had this mom at Christmas time come into the store. She has I think their oldest daughter is like, I don't know, close to maybe Abby's age, so probably in her 20s, but then they still have one at home that's pretty young. I think she's 12. One of the things that she asked for Christmas was skincare products. 12 years old, asking for skincare products.
Mm.
And she couldn't believe it because when I was 12, the last thing I was gonna ask for, I mean, I guess it'd be more prevalent if for my sister to ask for something like that, but she wasn't asking for skincare products. But parents, I'm telling you, your kids are looking for beautification, health products, all these things we're talking about that we're generally aiming at an adult audience, and not that college age kids are not adults, they're young adults, but nevertheless, everything we're talking about and you guys, I'm sure these parents, I'm kind of preaching to the choir. They know the things that your kids are asking for, like facial pills, and some of them are asking for Botox and all this crazy stuff. This is one of the things that they're looking at as well. They're shopping for it. They're getting it somewhere. So if we can help guide you in a healthy direction to, and again, I don't want to scare you into telling your kids to supplement, so that they don't take some non-prescribed ADHD medication, but nevertheless, they're looking for things to make them healthier. Have these conversations with your kids, and hopefully the stuff we talk about today and going forward will be things that will help you give your kids good advice for supplementing their nutrients.
Yeah, marketers are really smart, and I'm not
Mhm.
by any means, like, throwing them under the bus. They play a role in our society, but a lot of the marketing in the supplementation space is
Oh, it's horrible.
just hype to get people to buy a product,
Yep.
and they know how to tell you what you wanna hear, whether it's lose weight, look better, crazy energy, beast performance mode in the gym. Um, but ultimately restoring the body to just normal function, giving it what it needs to be able to have normal function, which also means very high capacities, very high performance capacity, will result in all those things for you, right? Just
Yep.
getting in. So many times they will go buy that supplement, like, hey, this is gonna give me that more energy and take away my hunger. And it's full, as you've already said, of stimulants and non-study, like, just stuff that's not good for you. And what it doesn't have are the very nutrients they're missing that are causing them to snack and be hungry all the time anyway, right?
Yep.
Always go back and build the foundation and then see where do you need to get into, because we will go far beyond simple foundational nutrient type support formulations. We're going to have our own adaptogenic blend, stress response and stress resiliency. We're going to have our nootropic blend for improving cognition and focus. And like, we will have products that are custom designed blends using the various therapeutics and molecules I use in my clinic and observe results with. And we'll make those available over time. But I would be like, if you came to our site and said, well, wait, I can only buy one product, which one am I going to buy? I'm like, well, then go get foundational nutrients, right? Don't skip that one and jump over into the other high performance stuff. Performance starts with addressing these foundations. And we don't want every kid to need supplements. We want our entire society to take a step back and fix our habitat, fix our food, dial back the screens, get back into community, get back into personal connection in person and by talking to each other on phones. We want, all of this vitriol and divisiveness that goes on through social media and all these comparisons to become, substantially reduced. Nourishing food without poisons, clean water, clean air, environments that are safe to go engage and play and be in. That's what's going to fix this, right? That's what's going to fix this. But until all of that is happening, I haven't met the individual or child yet who doesn't need some degree of nutritional support via supplementation. I just haven't met that person who can do it 100% through their diet. And so it's really, at this point, it's like we can either accept that there's this extra thing I have to do because the food producers have not seen to this, and food is supposed to be about this, nourishing, and it's not the food. I'm not blaming the farmers. No, not blaming them, but other factors. But nonetheless, our food producers are not going to see to this. It's critical. I or my child cannot be happy or live to our fullest life without it. So I can either address it through some form of supplementation, whatever fits our budget and our abilities, or I can put my head in the sand and ignore it and hope that we just won't have much of a negative impact. But most people listening probably already have. I'm not saying all will, but most probably already, if they don't, their spouse does, or their children do, or their cousin does. They have challenges with their gut, with headaches, with mood, behavior, sleep, skin, musculoskeletal, all of it, right? And we just got to really do what we need to do for our bodies. It's just time. And our commitment, of course, is how can we engineer this in a way that one, It appears to work. I can check it out over time in real human lives. I can follow the data and follow their subjective reporting of health and see, okay, this does appear to work. This is working. How can we make sure the quality is such that there's no concern there, right? It's not going to be compromised in any such way. How can we keep it affordable and as simple as possible for individuals? Like, how can we just make this easy so you're not going around scratching your head, looking at 57 different supplements on a Walgreens countertop? You can just say, hey, this has been programmed. It'll do the job. I've got it.
So let's go through we got to figure out what we're going to call this.
I know we
The
don't
uh,
have an we
the
don't have a name.
NCAA protocol, the young adult protocol, the off to college kit.
Mhm.
I don't know. We'll come up with something. We'll let the professional marketers come up with that.
The truth is that this you would basically retrograde this to the developing children and
There you
everything,
go.
right? Is kinda where we'd go. It's just a matter of how can we create a formulation that you can get it into those little bodies, whereas
Yeah.
our college kids can take some capsules and stuff. Do you want to pull up that list, or you want me to pull it up? I've got it up there too.
If you got it, since we've already got you set up to go here, I'll
Yeah,
get
here we
over
go.
back over to your screen.
Here we are. So anybody, Jason will make this available. We can make it available through our www.authentichealth.com, our medical clinic website. We'll be happy to share this with anybody who wants it. This describes the why, what's going on. It's the value proposition, why it's important. You guys have already heard most of this because we talked about it today. And then we talked about, here's what we're creating. Now, this is I want to be clear, this is the current list, and then there's an expanded version. Um, and it's gonna be like, for most people, you're like, "Whoa, I thought you were gonna name one thing." No, this is covering these different categories we already talked about that are so important. So we have our B complex. This is a simple B complex where we're covering all of those B vitamins at what should be a sufficient amount for most people who don't have a significant deficiency or other issue with one of those vitamins. Like most people, this is going to cover the B vitamins and take care of it. It's just one capsule a day. In this protocol, it'll be blended into our formulation. And then we have omega-3 capsules for EPA and DHA, right? These are two critical omega-3 fatty acids. I went through that earlier, how important these are, cell membranes. This is almost 100%er in terms of everybody I've ever tested, if they weren't supplementing, are in fact deficient in omega-3s. And so this is critical. We'll have uh, we'll have two formulas. One's going to be your core nutrients. The other is going to be the fats, right? And then the fats will have EPA and DHA in our capsules. I include a cod liver oil capsule for fat soluble nutrients like retinol, vitamin A, fat soluble vitamin A, not what you're thinking of beta carotene, the orange stuff, things like that, because most people are deficient in the retinol. Your body has to convert what we call carotenoids like beta carotene into retinol. So cod liver oil and liver in general is a good source of the retinoic acid or retinol form of vitamin A. It also has natural food-based vitamin D, which our body can then use and convert into the forms that we use. And it has some additional EPA and DHA. So in our formulation, what we're going to do is take retinol and carotenoids, both. So we're covering both sides of the vitamin A, and we're going to cover vitamin D and D3 and K2. And then we're also going to have a blend of what are called tocotrienols and tocopherols for vitamin E for that. So our formulation, we're just going to go ahead in the fats and blend all of those in, and that'll like replace cod liver oil capsules. And then we have our phospholipid complex, which comes in a capsule or gel. I love this liposomal one. It's wonderful. This is where we get our phosphatidylcholine, phosphatidylserine, and others. In our formulation, we'll have a very healthy dose of phosphatidylcholine and phosphatidylserine that'll be blended into the fats. And then I'm going to still recommend people consider ordering the Beam minerals because of their comprehensive electrolytes and trace mineral availability blended with the fulvic and humic that is so helpful. This is something that would be, for those who are willing, you may still be purchasing the Beam minerals and using those on the side, but we'll be putting a complex, a natural, um, it's called shiaji, and people have heard of it. Some people might pronounce it differently. and it's got minerals and it's got fulvic and humic in it, and we can blend this into our formulation. And so we're going to have some of what are in these two in our formulation. And then those who want to go deeper might still add the B minerals on. And
Real,
then I
real
go
quick,
ahead.
Gus, I want to make a point right there that what Gus is saying. So the formulation that Authentic Health is coming up with, if Gus cannot formulate it in a way that either one makes it better for you than you having it separately, two, we simply can't source it. Basically, it just doesn't bond well or it doesn't react well with the other ingredients. Then it doesn't go in the formulation. Gus is taking great care. I don't think you all would expect anything differently, but Gus, as he's making these formulations, we will gladly point you to another company to get what you need to get the best use out of our formulation. Gus is going to make these formulations so that it has as much of these key components as absolutely possible to make it simpler and easier to get these nutrients in your body. But if there's one that just simply won't go for any reason, we will gladly say, okay, you need to go here and get this to add to this to get that deeper impact. That's just how we're going to approach this. This isn't something that's like, if it doesn't have Authentic Health on it, then we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to tell you where to go or what to do or who to buy. We don't care about. No, it starts with your health, getting everything you need. And if Authentic Health cannot formulate it, can't produce it, can't source it, then we will tell you exactly where to go so that you can have that add-on to your Authentic Health product to get the absolute best nutrients for your body. So just wanted to state
Yeah,
that.
and I think that's important. Yeah, so our formulations will basically check the box of all the main things that I want people to get from here. Plus, I'm actually going to have some others that aren't in these products that I'm going to recommend. All right. So this is like foundational because we're covering the B vitamins, we're covering the essential fatty acids, the phospholipids, the fat soluble nutrients, minerals, and electrolytes, and then the fulvic and humic we need to help try and keep cleaning up our gut and our body. So that's again the foundational one. And then for people who will do it, I'll add in the amino acids. We've done entire episodes on this, so go back and listen. You know what a big fan we are. But essentially, my daughters don't mind, taking these once or twice a day just to top off their protein availability because they're just days.
Rylan, my oldest, has started taking them, has no problem. She's doing the same thing, Gus. She's like, "Yeah, I'll do that, Dad." And absolutely, she's at least twice, sometimes 3 times a day, getting her dose of aminos.
Yep, beautiful. And so it's optional because some kids are just not ready to take that much, and I don't wanna overwhelm them and have them just stop. But it's a great add-on because it'll help them make sure that they're meeting that protein target for them, which most are not meeting, and that's critical. Without protein, you wither up and eventually you die. We are going to have our own amino acid blend that'll be in capsule form. And we're gonna have an extra amino acid blend for those who are a little more into performance, where we go ahead and add some of the ones that I commonly see you need more of, like glutamine and glycine and arginine and things like that. So we're excited about that. Um, Now this is the more robust protocol where I'm like, hey, if you want to go deeper, and this is like what my son does because he's maximizing growth. But so we have our B complex, our omega 3s, our cod liver oil, our body biophospholipids, our B minerals. He takes 15 amino acids a day. I have some in the morning, some at night. And then I do not have him on the NAC because I don't think he needs it because he has healthy glutathione levels. But N-acetylcysteine is wonderful for many reasons, but one of it is it really helps boost glutathione availability in the body. And glutathione helps neutralize toxicants, oxidants, and alcohol. So that's where I think of it for college students. Thankfully, my daughters don't really enjoy alcohol. They don't drink a lot of alcohol, so that's not a big challenge for them. Nonetheless, having the NAC would be very supportive of those who are going to drink alcohol. And
Which, by the
then
way, Gus, I want to mention real quick, I have heard from Nayan Patel, founder of Glutaril, which is our glutathione of choice as far as
Mhm.
supplement. You're talking about NAC and its benefits in boosting your glutathione levels. So, just so the audience knows, stay tuned. Dr. Gus and I will be tag teaming, interviewing, or basically it'll be me just kind of prompting these two brilliant guys in a conversation about the importance of what is the master antioxidant in our body, which is glutathione, and how important it is. I'm really excited about that. And also I can tell you, just as a real quick teaser, knowing you as well as I do, Gus, and this audience, and then knowing Nyan, I would imagine we will also get into some conversations about just living a high quality, peaceful, joyful life. Nyan is one of the sweetest, kindest, most amazing guys. He is a guy that freaking Tony Robbins and Tom Brady look to, for not only their glutathione, but I think just his life's philosophy is pretty darn cool. So just as a little plug there for that episode that'll be coming up.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm excited about that too. I get up with him regularly. We've hosted a webinar together for A4M. I see him when I speak at conferences. He's just a wonderful man. And yes, and we'll go all things glutathione. So the liver capsules I threw in. Now, again, a lot of people aren't going to do this. My son, I actually have him take 6 a day, which is equivalent of eating an ounce of liver a day, as though he was eating 7 ounces of liver a week. He's willing to do it. He's willing to throw them down. And, liver is just a food-based source of so many nutrients and peptides and enzymes. I love it. I know that most people aren't going to take this many capsules on top of everything else. So I don't insist on it. But for those who are willing to go a little deeper and really want to optimize, I throw in the organ meat blends. And so liver is just sort of a staple, unless they're going to start eating liver. And then these 2 products we're going to have a special episode on. These are what are called plasmalogen precursors, which are fatty acid derivatives, critical for the brain. They can make a huge difference in mental performance, sleep quality, recovery, immune system function, and reducing migraines. So I have my daughters on plasmalogen support with these, but we'll do an episode that'll be a deep dive into this. It's such an important topic because it's going to end up touching on how are we going to begin to potentially, 1, prevent, but 2, reverse Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, autism, maybe. It's going to involve it's going to have to do with things around plasmalogens and these fatty acids. And so, if cost is no object and someone's willing just to throw whatever down you give them, I would throw in these plasmalogen precursors. It's sort of like a next level type of add-on. So these were just sort of the extras that you could kind of like, push a little deeper. And then I also mentioned here that I recommend maybe a greens powder, a reds powder, maybe a fiber powder, just ways of making sure you're getting, diverse phytonutrients, things that aren't accounted for in just our regular vitamins and minerals. Again, people have their tolerance of what they're willing to do or not do. What I found is that for most people, if they'll try to eat a reasonably healthy diet with a variety of organic, non-toxic produce, get enough protein, yeah, and if they're reasonably mindful that this basic protocol will fill in the gaps and take care of it from there.
So I haven't even counted up, and I know we're going to reduce some of these bottle caps. How many bottle caps is that?
Oh, here, I'll show you again. So
Let's go through
in
this.
our base protocol, we had Thornby complex, omega-3, cod liver, body bio, beam minerals. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This will
Okay.
go down. This will go to 2. Now, these things take size. They have size, right? They have density. These are,
Yeah.
matter. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you won't have to take the capsules. I don't know yet. We might be able to get some reduction in total capsule volume, but it might go up because of the way I want to put more phospholipids in there and
Yeah.
more So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 really should be 6, 7. And then the little solutions is probably going to end up being 6, 7, maybe even 8, maybe 4 capsules in the morning, 4 in the evening. Right. But it'll just be 2 bottles
Okay.
and the cost will come down. And then obviously compared to this one, but this one has a lot of goodies on there that we can't add into our formulation. We will have a formulation that we add N-acetylcysteine. It's going to be our foundational nutrients plus. Of course, that's not the name of it, but the plus is going to be, I'm going to add a lot of goodies. I'm going to basically create or what is it? How many bottles do I open every day and what do I put in and what's the reason behind it? My stack, which is most of my patients' stack because they want to do what I do, I'm going to create that in a single formulation.
Okay.
It's going to become Jason's stack as well.
Absolutely. Well, and here's one of the things that I love about this is just so the audience knows is you well, I mean, it's kind of stupid to say, but you are a physician. All of everything we're talking about, this is all physician recommended doctor. And not only that, Dr. Gus, you are an integrated health specialist, a precision health specialist. You're more about healthcare than you are sick care. You've done sick care for all your career as a primary care physician. You'll still do sick care. If people are sick, they can come see you. But so much of this, so just so you know, folks, that with regard to the level of quality and expertise and why behind these formulations and the protocols, it is not just, it's not bro science. It's not bro science, some dudes trying to get jacked, and so they went over to China and sourced some garbage to put into a bottle with a flaming demon with really big bulging muscles and then advertises it with a link on some cheesy, podcast or YouTube channel. It's physician based, and this is, again, like we've said time and time again from, Dr. Gus, you're going on 3 decades, clinical experience and thousands of patients. And so I'm really excited about this. And I love that. And I just say that because I want the audience to have a comfort level of knowing that we are entering this market at the absolute highest level we possibly can. Um, and that's one of the things, we talk a lot about business school and whenever I was there, when you enter a market, you have a choice. Are you going to race to the bottom, try to be in the really hard, terrible middle, or are you going to set yourself apart and go right for the premium at the beginning? Our goal is to create an absolute premium product and sell it at the absolute most value possible. No one involved in this company is looking to just become billionaires in our little supplement company. Dr. Gus has done this for years, just as a plug in to his practice, and not as a a big profit center, but as a just extra tools to help people get healthy. And we want to scale that. That's what we're essentially trying to do here.
Yeah, I mean, speaking to the quality, these what we create is what I'm gonna put in my own body and my own children's body, right? This is like what I'm choosing for me and my family members. And, the audience, they don't follow me around, they don't know me. But if they knew me, if they came into the community and got the testimony of the people that knew me, they'd know I'm exceedingly picky and meticulous about what goes into my and my family's body, right? So this is for my parents. This is designed this stuff for us, but also for everyone. And, ultimately, because virtually everyone in our modern society and most people probably all around the world could use this support, we hope they get it, right? We hope they get it because could change so much about the health picture of our country and cost and how people in the well-being statistics. And, if everybody did get it, then there would be billions of dollars. But guess what that would mean? We could fund supplying it to all the places where it can't be afforded, right? So all those, kids that I met at the visit when I was on that trip and the orphanages and schools in Uganda, we could just ship it to them and say, here you go. We can help you solve your nutrient challenges. And so, yeah, we do. It's not about making billions of dollars for us, but if by some chance we can generate billions and help solve this challenge for people all around the world, we're all for that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's gonna be a major component is, paying it forward and
Yeah,
doing good.
we're gonna have some percent of profits that we
Yep.
will identify that we'll be actually using to support, different we'll talk around that, but one of my main ones will be supporting Bishop Naboth and his schools and orphanages in Uganda.
Yeah, and just so people know, we mentioned this before. Whenever Dr. Gus has talked about this, the reason why we want to do this is because when you go to Uganda, their food, because it's not mass produced, it's not as processed like we have. Like again, and Dr. Gus mentioned earlier, it's not to beat up on the Western, well, in a particular the American food industry. They're trying to scale and create more calories at less cost, and there's a lot of that is just miraculous. I often say the 10-cent calorie is a miraculous thing. It's crazy, but in Uganda, they don't have a nutrient deficiency problem. They have a volume problem. Here in America, we have too much of a bad thing. We have an excess of calories, a deficit of nutrients. There, they have the actual nutrients, just not nearly enough of it. And so, if we can take this unbelievable capitalistic machine that America has perfected better than any other corner of the world and leverage that to make money here and then help those folks get what they need to make up for that volume deficit. That's really something that is, and that's what got me really excited about this, Gus, after you went on that trip and we started birthing this idea of why are we not doing something like this. It's going to be exciting. It's going to do a lot of good, and man, it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
We are so excited. We've been talking about it, mostly just sharing again what we hope are interesting information around health with you guys. But we've been talking about it, and now it's finally becoming a reality. The things that I needed to fall into place around quality, sourcing, custom design have finally, become available to me, and I'm so excited about that.
Well, okay, so here's what's gonna happen, folks. I highly encourage, if you're listening to this on the podcast, go to, texttitans.blog or just jasonrightnow.com and click on the podcast tab. That way you go to the full site. I'm gonna have the protocol, both the basic and the extras that Dr. Gus just went over. If you go to the YouTube channel, you'll be able to go back and see his daughter's, um, uh, results that Dr. Gus went through. So you can kind of, it helps to hear this stuff over and over. And then I hope that when you're watching and you see kind of the simplicity of it, it's not that hard. Just go get the test done and then go over it with your physician to go look at that. Also, you'll have all the contact information. If you want to reach out to Authentic Health in Asheville, Dr. Gus's practice, you're perfectly willing to do that. Maybe we need to start doing something, Gus, where we can do some sort of like they've listened to the podcast and they reach out to the clinic, and that way we identify that. I don't know how it will, if we were
Well,
really good.
I think we could find a way to do that. And actually, I'm really glad you're saying what you're saying because I didn't even mention this. Um, Listeners, if you're interested in data like what I presented on my daughter for your child, we can help you get that.
Yep.
And Jason's right. Maybe you can get it and go to your own doctor, but depending on your clinician and their understanding of nutrition, they may not be that helpful. That's why we have health coaches
Yep.
that actually can meet and they do most of these family reviews. Not me as a medical doctor, although I will do it and I do it for my patients. Most of the time when we do like, I have an adult and they're like, would you test all my 3 children? We do it, and the health coach, who is not expensive, gives them the information and tells them what they need. If you are interested in your family members or yourself getting a micronutrient report or that assessment for gluten and wheat or a gut report, our clinic will help you get the test. I will tell you what the test costs and set you up with one of our health coaches who is an expert and who will walk you through the report and design a protocol for you. That is absolutely available. We're happy to do it. You just come to www.authentic.com and click under like health coaching and communicate. Tell us who you are. Tell us you came through Jason Wright Show. We can start keeping a track of that and we'll do it. We'll get you started. I do want to mention if you decide to pursue this bundle on this document, you will save money and it'll all come to you as a package if you let us service it for you from our office standpoint. We buy these products at wholesale with minimal markups because we're trying to make this more affordable. So yes, you can go source it yourself. You can go link to every one of those products I mentioned, or you can communicate with us. We will bundle it and we will ship it to you or to your child at college, and we will save you a lot of money in doing so. So please allow us to serve you if you want to go deeper down into these areas.
And one of the things, and then I will wrap it up, that you mentioned with regard to the non-expensive nature of a health coach. First of all, a health coach is way less expensive than a cardiovascular surgeon. I'm pretty sure. And so there's that. Also, folks, how many times do we all gripe about the fact that the American healthcare system is while we say we have a market-based healthcare system, yeah, go try to shop for your healthcare. Go if you end up having to get surgery, go try to shop for who that surgeon's gonna be in the hospital that you're gonna be in. I'm pretty sure your insurance companies can do that shopping for you based not on the best value or anything like that. It's gonna be where they have to pay the least. The insurance company's going to drive it. When you start getting into precision medicine and you start, again, when you start focusing on health care, prevention, staying healthy, being healthier, as opposed to sick care, this is the care you get to shop for. It is market based. You don't deal with Dr. Gus without knowing exactly what you're in for. You all know what these supplements are going to cost. You know what the coaching costs. You know upfront. It's such a better way to take care of your health, to be proactive versus reactive. You can be a better consumer. You can get it down to the actual dollars and cents and the time allotment to do these things, versus you wake up one day and you've got hypertension, you've got insulin resistance, you've got all these issues, and now you're having to take meds whether you can afford them or not, what the insurance company will pay for or not. This is a much better way to go about it. I'm telling you. And our goal, and we think big, our goal is for this to be how healthcare is done in America for the future, that it's much more about healthcare as opposed to sick care. So everything we're talking about, just take that baby step to get started, even if it is through supplementation. It's calling Gus's clinic and saying, hey, I want to do one of the screenings. I want to check my gut biome, or just whichever one. Hey, Courtney, help me figure out what I need to look at first to take that step towards good health, and it'll make you a better consumer of healthcare and just make you a healthier person. I think that's really something that we need to push more, Gus, not just us, but just in healthcare in general, that precision care, man, it is a purely market-based approach to healthcare versus the other stuff, which is so insurance company driven and government driven and subsidy driven and all the rest.
Well, just compare the outcomes between the two.
There you go.
Paul said, for all of this is what healthcare should be. We'll still be here to lance your hemorrhoid if you need it. Right? there is still a role for healthcare in putting people back together in something.
Absolutely. All right, Gus, this was good, man. I appreciate it. Until we come up with a better name, the young adult starter kit, precision health starter kit, something like that. I hope you folks enjoyed this. All right, so appreciate you being here, brother.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks, man. Well, that does it for this episode of the Jason Wright Show. Thank you so much for listening. This has been a Texas Titan Media production. Fourth Wall did the music. And as always, thank you so much for listening. Please consider going out to jasonwrightnow.com and signing up for the Vitruvian letter. Also, please go out to iTunes. It takes like 30 seconds to just leave us a 5-star rating. It does wonders for the podcast. I would be so grateful. And with that, until we meet again, go crush it and endeavor to improve always in all ways. I'm out.